All over Alabama, the trend is to George Wallace for governor. George Wallace, the man who stands for honest, economical government, for maintaining Southern traditions. Join your friends and neighbors and stand up for Alabama. Vote for George Wallace on May 29th. Paid political announcement. Listen to these important words from George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties in the May 1st Democratic primary for governor. Judge Wallace speaks on education.
Education will be the primary function of government in the Wallace administration. The children of Alabama are entitled to as good an educational background as a child of any state. And those who work in education, whether they be school teachers, bus drivers, or other school employees, are entitled to live as good as those in other states. Yes, I will take whatever action is necessary to solve this problem that we find our school system faced with. Education will be the primary function of state government in the next 4 years.
These were the words of George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties on May the 1st. Let's stand up for Alabama again on May 29th and make it 67 out of 67. Elect George C. Wallace governor, a real Southerner. A paid political announcement. Listen to these important words from George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties in the May 1st Democratic primary for governor. Judge Wallace makes this pledge to you.
When I stand on the star where Jefferson Davis stood to take the oath of the Confederacy, I shall be committed only to the people of Alabama. And when I swear to uphold the Constitution of this nation, of the state of Alabama, and the laws of this state, I shall do just that. And with God's help, I will make you a good governor.
These were the words of George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties on May the 1st. Let's stand up for Alabama again on May 29th and make it 67 out of 67. Elect George C. Wallace governor, a real Southerner. A paid political announcement. Listen to these important words from George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties in the May 1st Democratic primary for governor. Judge Wallace speaks on new industry.
I shall work to bring new industry into Alabama during my administration. I want to see a new plant in every city and town in this state within the next 4 years. And I shall travel all over the nation hunting industry that's coming south and telling them of the wonderful opportunities for industrial development within our state in order that the peoples of Alabama might find employment here in Alabama.
These were the words of George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties on May the 1st. Let's stand up for Alabama again on May 29th and make it 67 out of 67. Elect George C. Wallace governor, a real Southerner. Paid political announcement. Listen to these important words from George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties in the May 1st Democratic primary for governor. Judge Wallace speaks on our elderly citizens.
We shall pay the old people of Alabama $100 per month during the Wallace administration. We can do this, and we should do it, by applying half of the 20 to 25 millions of dollars that I know can be saved by economical government for the old age pension program. We should look after the old people of this state in the sunset years of their lives. They should have a living and not a bare existence.
These were the words of George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties on May the 1st. Let's stand up for Alabama again on May 29th and make it 67 out of 67. Elect George C. Wallace governor, a real Southerner. A paid political announcement. Listen to these important words from George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties in the May 1st Democratic primary for governor. Judge Wallace speaks on honest economical government.
We can save 20 to 25 millions of dollars in the next 4 years by having honest economical government. We can cut out liquor agents, go by the low bid law, cut the governor's appropriation $1 million, ask the legislature to meet a shorter time, cut out state yachts. All of this together will save enough money to help ease the education problem and to provide additional pensions for the old people of Alabama, which can be made $100 per month within the next 4 years.
These were the words of George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties on May the 1st. Let's stand up for Alabama again on May 29th and make it 67 out of 67. Elect George C. Wallace governor, a real Southerner. Paid political announcement.
Fellow Alabamians, this is George Wallace, your candidate for governor. I'm very humble and grateful for the fact that you gave me such a splendid vote on May 1st in the Democratic primary for governor. You know, I had the pleasure of traveling the length and breadth of this state during the campaign. This is a most magnificent state, all the way from the Tennessee line to the Gulf of Mexico. And I am very proud of the fact that I ran well in all sections of Alabama, that my support was not spotty, but was well-rounded in all sections of the state. I have worked long and hard in state service, and I will continue to dedicate my life to the service of the people of this state. And if you will allow me to serve you as a governor during the next 4 years, I will handle myself and your affairs in such a manner that you will nowise ever regret having supported George Wallace for governor. You know, in 1958, I was a runner-up in the race for governor. As you know and recall, I was defeated by Mr. Patterson. And on the night that I was the runner-up, I said to you, the people of Alabama, that I was glad that I lived in a state and nation in which the majority of the people could decide who their governor should be. That I thought that was more important than who served as governor, and I still do. You made me the runner-up in 1958. Let's let someone else be the runner-up this year, 1962. As of this time, we are not sure as to who my opponent will be. As you know, the Democratic Executive Committee meets on tomorrow to officially canvass the results to determine who is in second place. You have already placed me in first place by approximately 50,000 of votes. And regardless of who my opponent will be in the runoff, I will have run ahead of either one of those who are contesting for second place in over 50 counties. In fact, I did not expect to receive the lead in the first primary that I did receive. It exceeded my fondest expectations, but I am real grateful and real thrilled at this fact. You know, I shall again in this campaign discuss the basic issues and let you know how I feel straightforward. I shall talk about education, honesty in government, economy in government, reapportionment, farmers markets, old age pensions, industrial development, and my way and ideas about maintaining the segregated school system, white schools for white and colored schools for colored. To you who supported me, again let me say that I thank you and I appreciate all that you did for me. And I say this on behalf of me and my family. If you did not support me in the first primary, let me say that this is a new race. I would like to have your support now. If you did support those who have been eliminated in this race, join ranks with those who supported me and help elect me on May 29th. For I feel that if I am otherwise qualified, that I have worked long and hard to be your governor, and although that is no reason to elect a person because he has worked hard to be governor, I feel that this should have some stand in the matter if you otherwise feel that I am qualified. If you will support me in the race for governor, I will give you my word that we will have 4 years of honest government, progressive government, sober government, and government dedicated to the traditions and customs of the peoples of this great state. Yes, this is a great and magnificent state. We have a great heritage, and we have a great future, and we have a great destiny. Yes, my prayer shall be that all Alabamians will live in peace and harmony, and that Alabama will be able to provide its full measure of support in the matter of the Cold War, that we can grow strong and vigorous industrial and agricultural and economically. This in itself will make the nation stronger, and the stronger the nation, the stronger Western civilization, and the stronger our efforts against the communist menace that threatens the life and freedoms of all the peoples of Alabama and of this nation. Yes, that will be my prayer in the years to come. If you will elect me the governor of your state, with God's help, I will make you a good governor. Thank you very much.
A campaign bulletin from George C. Wallace. Judge Wallace, sponsor of the Wallace Industrial Act and candidate for governor of Alabama, speaks out for a strong industrial development program.
I pledge that I will work with every city and county in Alabama that we might bring an industry to every city and town in Alabama in the next 4 years, in order that anyone who desires to find industrial employment within that county might do so, because industry is on the move. And with progressive action by the governor of your state, we can channel it into this great state, the state of Alabama.
Under the Wallace Industrial Act, millions of dollars in new payrolls and thousands of jobs have been added in Alabama. Judge Wallace is determined to bring more industry to every part of Alabama, to get more and better paying jobs for Alabama people. Stand up for industrial growth. Stand up for Alabama. Elect George C. Wallace, governor.
Paid political announcement.
Listen to these important words from George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties in the May 1st Democratic primary for governor. Judge Wallace speaks on new industry.
I shall work to bring new industry into Alabama during my administration. I want to see a new plant in every city and town in this state within the next 4 years. And I shall travel all over the nation hunting industry that's coming south and telling them of the wonderful opportunities for industrial development within our state, in order that the peoples of Alabama might find employment here in Alabama.
These were the words of George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties on May the 1st. Let's stand up for Alabama again on May 29th and make it 67 out of 67. Elect George C. Wallace governor, a real Southerner. Paid political announcement. Listen to these important words from George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties in the May 1st Democratic primary for governor. Judge Wallace speaks on reapportionment.
I am for reapportionment of the legislature of the state. And if reapportionment of the legislature has not been accomplished by the time I am inaugurated governor, I shall work toward that end. Reapportionment should be brought about in order to provide additional representation to the larger counties in Alabama, while at the same time protecting the smaller. Yes, I will work for reapportionment of the legislature of the state, for I am for reapportionment, and it should and must come about.
These were the words of George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties on May 1st. Let's stand up for Alabama again on May 29th and make it 67 out of 67. Elect George C. Wallace governor, a real Southerner. Paid political announcement. Listen to these important words from George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties in the May 1st Democratic primary for governor. Judge Wallace speaks on our elderly citizens.
We shall pay the old people of Alabama $100 per month during the Wallace administration. We can do this, and we should do it, by applying half of the 20 to 25 millions of dollars that I know can be saved by economical government for the old age pension program. We should look after the old people of this state in the sunset years of their lives. They should have a living and not a bare existence.
These were the words of George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties on May the 1st. Let's stand up for Alabama again on May 29th and make it 67 out of 67. Elect George C. Wallace governor, a real Southerner. A paid political announcement. Listen to these important words from George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties in the May 1st Democratic primary for governor. Judge Wallace speaks on honest economical government.
We can save 20 to 25 millions of dollars in the next 4 years by having honest economical government. We can cut out liquor agents, go by the low bid law, cut the governor's appropriation $1 million, ask the legislature to meet a shorter time, cut out state yachts. All of this together will save enough money to help ease the education problem and to provide additional pensions for the old people of Alabama, which can be made $100 per month within the next 4 years.
These were the words of George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties on May the 1st. Let's stand up for Alabama again on May 29th and make it 67 out of 67. Elect George C. Wallace governor, a real Southerner. Paid political announcement. Listen to these important words from George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties in the May 1st Democratic primary for governor. Judge Wallace speaks on segregation.
I am unalterably opposed to race mixing in the school system of Alabama. I believe in white going to white schools and black going to black schools. This is in the interest of both races. As a governor of your sovereign state, I shall stand on this proposition, and I believe that you and I, working together, we can stand up for Alabama and we can prevent race mixing and preserve the segregated school system in Alabama during the next 4 years.
These were the words of George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties on May the 1st. Let's stand up for Alabama again on May 29th and make it 67 out of 67. Elect George C. Wallace governor, a real Southerner. A paid political announcement. All over Alabama, the trend is to George Wallace for governor. George Wallace, the man who stands for honest economical government, for maintaining Southern traditions. Join your friends and neighbors and stand up for Alabama. Vote for George Wallace on May 29th. Paid political announcement. Listen to these important words from George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties in the May 1st Democratic primary for governor. Judge Wallace makes this pledge to you.
When I stand on the star where Jefferson Davis stood to take the oath of the Confederacy, I shall be committed only to the people of Alabama. And when I swear to uphold the Constitution of this nation, of the state of Alabama, and the laws of this state, I shall do just that. And with God's help, I will make you a good governor.
These were the words of George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties on May the 1st. Let's stand up for Alabama again on May 29th and make it 67 out of 67. Elect George C. Wallace governor, a real Southerner. A paid political announcement. Listen to these important words from George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties in the May 1st Democratic primary for governor. Judge Wallace speaks on education.
Education will be the primary function of government in the Wallace administration. The children of Alabama are entitled to as good an educational background as a child of any state. And those who work in education, whether they be school teachers, bus drivers, or other school employees, are entitled to live as good as those in other states. Yes, I will take whatever action is necessary to solve this problem that we find our school system faced with. Education will be the primary function of state government in the next 4 years.
These were the words of George C. Wallace, picked first over his opposition in 57 out of 67 counties on May the 1st. Let's stand up for Alabama again on May 29th and make it 67 out of 67. Elect George C. Wallace governor, a real Southerner. A paid political announcement.
Licking free steaks and ride people around in the moonlight at your expense when the schools are talking about closing. I want to tell you about the state docks. I'm not going to go into detail because you've been here a long time. But I'm interested in the state docks, and I'm interested in everything that affects the people of Mobile, because this is a great county, and this county has treated me like a home candidate for governor by even voting for me when I lost. We're going to have an able docks administration. Every action we take in the matter of the docks will be designed for the purpose of improving, expanding, bringing more trade and commerce and shipping into the great city port of Mobile. No action will ever be taken, in my judgment, that will cripple the state docks when I am the governor of your state. It is... And in regards to the seafood industry, I'm going to take a great portion of the money that we save on the matter of tying up the state yachts to use for the restoration of the seafood industry, the shrimp and oyster industry in the great Mobile area. It's a great industry, but you've suffered a long time, and I want the Conservation Department to take whatever action is necessary on a long-range plan to restore this great shrimp and oyster industry in the city, in the Mobile port area, in the Mobile area. I also want to say in regards to schools, I've always been interested in education, and the children of Alabama are going to be the #1 concern of the Wallace administration. Your child and my child. We must take whatever action is necessary to solve the problem we find our school system in. And you have had some great and serious problems in your own school system here in the great county and city of Mobile. We will take that action when I am the governor of your state. I'm interested in education all the way from the grade school to the graduate level, including the vocational programs, because I sponsored, as a member of the legislature, I sponsored the bill that built the trade school on Fulton Road. Yes, education will be the primary function of state government when I'm the governor of this sovereign state. You know, when we lose 1,000 school teachers every year, we don't hurt the school teachers. They just get them a better job when they leave this state. We hurt your child and my child and your grandchild, and we're going to think about them in the next administration. We are never going to reach this great future that we so glowingly talk about until first we have done what we ought to for the school system of Alabama. Now to the old people of Alabama. We're going to take half of this 20 to 25 millions that we can save in the next 4 years, and we're going to apply it to the old age pension program, and we're going to raise every one of them to $100 per month in the next 4 years, because we are going to cut out the yachts. We're going to cut out the liquor agents. We're going to cut $1 million off the governor's office. We're going to ask the legislature to save you $3 million, and we're going to go by the low bid law when I'm the governor of your state. To get back hurriedly, because I am trying to hurry because you've been here a long time, some people said, are you going to do what you said you'll do? I must do it, because the only way that I can have my children and grandchildren heard it said of their papa and grandpa that he made a good governor is do the things that I told you we would do. So you people in... To you people in the Mobile area, on your road and bridge problems, including another span over the Tensas River and other projects, I want to tell you this, that when your city officials and your county officials come to see me as the governor of the state to talk about road and bridge problems, they're going to have a sympathetic ear for many reasons. In the first place, I want to help you solve these problems. And second, you have supported me even when I was down. And I'm going to do anything that I can to solve every single road and bridge problem you have in the next 4 years in this state. And to you people who work and belong to the working class in this state, let me say that I came from working people myself. Just about 20 years ago, and not quite that long, I was plowing a mule, if you town folks don't mind me saying that. I don't know which is the hardest, running for governor, plowing a mule, but I tell you what. And there's no place in no place in the world that you can come from modest circumstances and be the governor of the sovereign state, which is good for your child and my child, because this is America. And we people in Alabama, in the next 4 years, are going to take whatever action we can to make Alabama stronger and more vigorous in order that we might help this nation meet the challenge of the communist menace from within and from without. But to you people who belong to the working class, let me tell you that I have members in my own family, and you know that in 1958 you supported me, and I'm grateful to you for that. You're supporting me now. And when I'm the governor of your state, any problem that you have, you'll have a sympathetic ear and an open door when you come to see the governor of Alabama. And I hope you tell all of your friends who are not here my attitude on that. I believe that reapportionment of the legislature of the state will be here by the time I'm the governor. And if it is not here by the time I'm governor, I want to say I shall work dedicated toward the end of submitting an amendment to the people of this state that will increase the voice of the people of Mobile County in the legislature of the state. Because you're entitled to it. I am not for reapportionment because the federal courts stuck their nose into it. I'm for it because it's simply right, not because they stuck their nose into it. It's just a habit of the federal courts to stick their nose into places where they ought not to stick it. One of these days they might draw back a nub, too. We're going to have a system of farmers markets in this state, and that's going to help the port city of Mobile. A system of farmers markets in every section of your great state will increase agricultural income hundreds of millions of dollars. We're going to do that. $161 million worth of vegetable products were sold in the state of Georgia last year, only 25 million in this state. And we've got the dirt and the climate and the human beings, but we don't have the markets. We're going to have a system of markets like that all over Alabama. We're going to have one in the Mobile area. We're going to increase agricultural income in that manner by $100 million a year by the end of the next administration, because we have 3 million miles new to feed every single year in this country. They do it in California, they do it in Florida. We ought to do it in Alabama, and we're going to do it in the next 4 years. I'm going to work to bring some more industry to this state, and every man in the race for governor says if you'll elect him, he's going to go out and get you some new industry. To induce industry to come into this great state. I also sponsored the Wallace Industrial Development Act. That's brought over 100 new plants into Alabama, employing thousands upon thousands of our people. When I am governor of the state, I'm going to spend 2 months of every single year in other parts of the country hunting industry that's coming south. parts in my own program in this second primary runoff, because that's the way a man ought to run for the governor of the state. And I have made the same speech in Bridgeport on the Tennessee line that I made at Bayou Battery. I haven't talked one way in North Alabama and one way in South Alabama and one way in East or West Alabama. I made the same speech in every section of this great state. And when I have talked to the people of Bridgeport, Alabama, and then to the people of Bayou Battery or Pritchard, I want to tell you this. We all look alike. We think alike. We got the same names. We got the same attitude and the same philosophy, because all of us are Alabamians from the Tennessee line to the Gulf of Mexico. And And I want to tell you this. The problems of the peoples of Huntsville are the problems of the peoples of Mobile. And the problems of Mobile are the problems of the peoples of Huntsville. And therefore, my friends, I want to tell you the other matter that faces the people of this state. And I've had some people that write and talk and say that George Wallace talks too strong about segregation. Now, how can you be too strong about it? You're either for it or you're against it. There's not any middle ground. We people come from people who 100 years ago were prostrate upon their backs and barefooted and eating acorns. And if they had said 100 years ago, there's not anything that we can do about the problems that face us, we wouldn't be standing here today. But they had some insides and some courage, and today we have what we have. I am sick and tired of the principle of federal courts who are appointed for life, trying to tell me who I can eat with and sit with and go to school with and who I can play with and swim with. We can do something about it. I've already told you in the first primary my plan for the sovereign of the state standing and testing in the courts the validity of the federal courts running the school system as against the elected sovereign of the state of Alabama. I'm not going to repeat all I said in the first primary because you heard it, and I don't want to bore you with it. But I want to tell you this much. I don't take back anything I said in the first primary. I still feel... We people in Alabama in the South have a rich religious background, and we have been sneeringly referred to as the Bible Belt. And I hope we'll always be referred to as the Bible Belt, because I consider that a compliment, and always will consider it a compliment. And I want to tell you about the federal courts. You know, 8 months ago, the Supreme Court ruled that no longer could you have a law that required a belief in God in order to hold public office. They've even held in every lower district court that you can't even read or pray in the public schools anymore. They've ruled that you cannot even fire a school teacher if they belong to the Communist Party. They've ruled you can't disbar a lawyer if they belong to the Communist Party. Andrew Jackson talked about them, Thomas Jefferson talked about them, and Franklin Roosevelt talked about them more than any president we ever had. And you and I have got a right to talk about the decisions of a court that affects our very lives. That in itself is freedom of speech. Now I want to tell you folks this. There are two methods to approach the matter of maintaining segregation. I want to tell you this. I want to see good schools for everybody. I want to see the mentally ill and the blind and the tubercular and the unfortunate of both races looked after, because my religious training has taught me that, and that's been the way of the peoples of the South. But I stand for this. I stand for white going to white schools and black going to black schools. And to those who say that if you stand up too strong, something will happen to you, let me tell you this. We've got two states, one on the left of us and one on the right of us. The state of Mississippi has stood up, backed up by people known as Mississippians. They've gained more industry in the last 5 years than any single state in the South except Florida. They recently got a $150 million plant even away from Alabama. They've got shipbuilding contracts and government contracts in the Pascagoula shipyard. They've got peace. They've got harmony. There's no turmoil in Mississippi. Why? Because they've had what it's inside to stand up for what they believe is good and right. Over in the state of Georgia, where the moderation plan took over, where they took a little of it without any fight, they've got riots in Augusta, killings in Albany, sit-ins, boycotts, shut-ins, strikes. and everything else against local authority. Stand up brings peace. Moderation brings turmoil. And when I'm the governor of your state, I want to tell you this. I'm going to follow the Mississippi plan and not the Georgia plan. I want to conclude by telling you that it's a pleasure to be with you. I want you people who treat me as a home candidate to help us win an overwhelming victory on the 29th. And we'll have 4 years of honest government and sober government and progressive government and government dedicated to the traditions and customs of all the peoples of Alabama and of our great section. Because here in this great section of the nation, we've got the industrial and agricultural potential to grow so strong in the next 10 years that we will be the garden spot of this great nation of ours. And the philosophy and attitude that has been in this part of the nation will help to save this country from some of the trends that she's taken off on in the last... Every happen shirts and them down below. Oh my beloved of people, but next Savannah, and by dear Louis Gimby, I now the say you skin in. That's all right, George. George, thank you very much. I'm glad to be back in Childersburg in Talladega County. To speak briefly to you, I sort of want to give you a report because I've been all the way from the Tennessee line down to the Gulf in the second primary, and you people voted for me in the first primary. I led the ticket in Childersburg, and I led it in Talladega County, and I want you to know that I'm grateful for that fact. And we're going to lead the ticket in this state by even larger vote than we led it on May the 1st. And I don't say that boastingly, but I say that confident. And I am humble and grateful for the fact that I look forward to the 29th of May that I will be nominated your governor with your help. And I don't believe there's any problem that the people of Alabama cannot meet and solve with divine guidance. Yes, it's an immense challenge to be the governor of the state of Alabama. But I told you in the campaign for governor, I told you I'm going to back out of the sun a little bit, because I plied a mule a many day in the sun, but I'm just getting a little older, you know. And so if you don't mind me backing back a little bit. And I want to tell you about roads and bridges again. I told you in the first primary I was going to help you in the 4-lane project from here, from Childersburg to Birmingham. And I tell you what, there's 2 reasons I want to help you do that. First is I just believe you ought to have the road, and I'm for roads and bridges being built throughout the length and breadth of the state. And second, you voted for me in the first primary here, and I know you're going to vote for me in the runoff, and you know that's going to make me have a sympathetic ear to any road and bridge problem that you have here in Childersburg and Talladega County. I want to tell you people in the textile industry again that I've talked on in every section of the state about using the influence of the governor's office to work or to persuade them in Washington never to take any more action that would cripple the great textile industry. You know, they've taken a lot of action in the last number of years that has hurt this great industry in view of the fact we have the unfair foreign competition. I would use the power and influence of that office to join with the other textile governors to fight to protect the textile industry and the textile workers. You can rest assured of that. I not only talked about that in this primary, but I talked about it in '58. I talked about it in the first primary. Also, I'm going to use the power of the governor's office to work toward every river development that we can have. The Coosa River development, every river inland waterways development. I'm going to do everything I can with the other states involved to persuade them in Washington to take whatever action is necessary, because any development of the river systems not only helps this state, but it helps the nation become stronger industrially and agriculturally. And the stronger our nation becomes, of course, the stronger we are in this fight against the communist menace. I'm going to tell you about reapportionment. We're going to have reapportionment. We've got to go ahead and do it because the federal courts have said so. I'm not for it because they said so. I'm for it because it's right. We just got to get that problem behind us, because if we do not do it, the federal courts are going to do it. Unless us do it, Alabamians do it, and not have a bunch of federal judges, half of them come from anywhere from Chicago down doing it, because they ought to keep their nose out of it anyway. But the federal courts have a habit of sticking their nose where they ought not to stick them anyway. My friends, I'm going to work for the farmers market program that I've told you about. I'm not going to go into at length on that. Any other problem that you have in this county, I'll have a sympathetic ear. The amount of industrial development, let me talk about that 1 minute. I heard the other day, about 2 weeks ago, that an industry larger than the $25 million plant that came to Cherokee, Alabama under the Wallace Act was looking at several locations in Alabama. That if they came to Alabama, they were going to use the Wallace Industrial Development Act. But they had looked at several other southern states also. I called the president of this company in Michigan and told him that I hear that you've looked at several spots in Alabama. And he said, yes, that is correct. And that you looked at spots in other sections of the South, and he said that was correct. That you're going to come, if you come to Alabama, under the Wallace Act. He said, yes, we're considering the Wallace Act. I said, I believe I'm going to be nominated governor of this state the 29th of May. He said, I know, I've been in Alabama, and I know you're in the runoff down there because I've been there doing the campaign for governor. I said, please don't make any decision on locating this plant before the 29th of May unless you decide to locate it in Alabama. If you're going to make that decision, make it. I want to come and talk with you in Michigan after the 29th of May when I am the governor-elect to tell you why you ought to bring your plant to Alabama, why you will be appreciated here, and why the people want you to come, and what a healthy climate we'll have for industrial development. We got the gratitude and admiration of millions of people in this country who know that when we stand up for constitutional government, that we are standing for the Constitution of the nation and for local government for everybody. I've had enemies of mine that go all over this state and say, George Wallace is too strong for segregation. Now, how in the name of common sense can you be too strong for it? You're either for it or against it. There's not any middle ground. And I want to tell you this, that I am unalterably opposed to any mixing in the public schools of Alabama, and I believe if we got the insides to stand up on the plan I told you in the first primary, we can win. All it takes is some insides and some intelligence, and I tell you what, and some standing up and letting them know we mean what we say, and we can win that fight. Some of them say, well, don't talk about the federal courts. Well, why shouldn't you talk about them? Thomas Jefferson talked about them, and Andrew Jackson and Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, talked about them worse than any president we ever had. You can't get a single member of your Congress in Alabama to praise them. They've all talked about them. Why can't I talk about them? Yes, the moderates and the NAACP and all of them say, shh, don't say nothing about the courts. They aren't holy men. You know, they don't hang the breeches on the wall and jump in them every morning. They put them on one leg at a time, just like you and I do. And I tell you what, you don't need anybody in governor of Alabama who's scared of the federal courts. And they say, well, if you stand up and be strong, they'll jump on you. Anybody who thinks they'll not jump on you for being quiet and meek as a mouse, well, you need to go to a good veterinarian and have your head bored for the holler horn, because that's what's wrong with you. Did you know that last year and every year we spend, and y'all having to pay tuition, see? You know how much we spend every year on boats, pleasure boats in Mobile Bay to ride big shots around in with free liquor and free steaks, been going on for many administrations. We spend $204,000 a year, $816,000 every 4 years for pleasure riding when these children are having to pay tuition to go to school here in this county. Yes, I'm not going to get to carry 50 people to every football game with me, and I'm not going to get to go to fishing trips and hunting trips with 50 of my friends and you paying for it. I'm going to go to football games if I go and pay my own expenses. The governor of Alabama ought not to have his expenses paid on any pleasure trip. He ought to pay it out of his own pocket. And therefore, we're going to take this $1 million extra that I'm going to ask the legislature to give me less and give it to the schools of Alabama and to the old people of Alabama and to the handicapped and the mentally ill and the tubercular and the other unfortunate people of Alabama.
I'm not talking about loudmouth talk. I'm not talking about going around making a lot of speeches. I'm talking about something that's constructive. Well, I remember 4 or 5 years ago, he was going to put all the federal agents in jail that came into Barber County. You remember that? Well, do you remember when they came down there? He didn't put them in jail. He shook hands with them in the corridor of the courthouse and accepted a summons for them to come to federal court. He ain't put one of them in jail yet. Do you remember that? And then they talk about this case down there in federal court in Montgomery, and he goes around and jumps all over the federal judge. Now, I don't know whether it wears a federal judge or not. I rather doubt it. I don't imagine he appreciates the unkind remarks that have been made. But really, what has that accomplished? The way he talks, you'd think he won that case down there. My friends, he didn't win it, he lost it. Do you realize that? He lost it. The only issue in that case was whether the federal government would have the registration records of Barber County. They got them. What difference does it make whether he handed them to them at midnight or whether they got them some other way? The fact remains they have them, they got them, he lost the case, he didn't accomplish a thing in the world. Why, it's just like me going down here to Kilby Prison and telling some poor fellow that I happen to represent and arguing his case to a jury, how eloquent I was and how great and tremendous my words were to the jury when they convicted him and sent him down there for life. I wonder what he'd think about the words as he sat down there and served his sentence in Kilby Prison. That's really what happened in this thing. He lost, the state of Alabama lost, and yet they still go around talking about it. If you want to bring integration to this state, then you follow the course that he advocates, and we'll have it quicker than in any other manner. Do you remember Little Rock? Do you remember all of the loudmouth talk that went on in Little Rock? Do you remember all of the big doings and the big eye this and the big eye that? And after all of the noise quieted down and the dust settled, The schools in Little Rock, Arkansas were integrated, wasn't it? All of the loudmouth talk didn't solve a thing. The School Placement Act, the Freedom of Choice Act, the Independent School District Act, and those are the three things that have stood between the people of Alabama and integration, and kid yourself not about that. And I'm proud that I've been down there contributing something to it. And I've been doing it in a manner along with other devoted public servants in Alabama who are not seeking publicity, who are not trying to run for political office on a basis of what they were doing, but who were trying to render a service to the people of this state. And I want you to know that there are numbers of many, and that they're serving in the legislature now, and that they've worked many, many hours all through the night trying to help solve the problems, and many of them have been created by a lot of the loudmouth talk that we've had in this state. You can't solve your problem by having leadership that's rabble-rousing and loudmouth, and you know it just as well as I'm standing here this afternoon, and you better not fall down the primrose path, because, my friends, if you do, the dome of the capital of Alabama is going to tumble right down on top of your head, just like it has everywhere else that approach has been followed. He's worked hard, he's a good speaker, and he'd make a good governor, but he just don't have a chance to get elected. Well, you know, the truth of the matter is now, since they see that I not only have a good chance of getting elected, but that I'm going to be the next governor of Alabama, I've turned from one of the nicest people in Alabama to one of the most terrible fellows that ever sought public office overnight in about 10 days' time. They've had that South Alabama Barber County rumor machine going 36 hours a day. But all that proves is this, that when desperate men see that they are about to get beat, then the only way that they have a fighting back is through underground rumors. I haven't spread any rumors about anybody in this campaign, and I haven't had any unkind remarks to make about any candidate in this race. And I've asked my supporters not to do anything but to go around selling round to graph and read, and to sell a positive program to build this state up. Some of the rumors that they've spread really are so ridiculous that I guess I ought to ignore them. But you know, anything gets tiresome after a while, and you kind of think, well, surely they'll quit because they'll take care of themselves. Why, they've spread it all over Alabama that I represented Arthurine Lucy, which is not a thing in the world except a falsehood. And I want you to know that, and I want you to know that I don't appreciate too much people going around saying that sort of thing, because that's not necessary in a political campaign. There isn't anybody in Alabama that's been going around spreading the rumor that I represented Arthurine Lucy that really believed it. All they've been doing was spreading it for political purposes. And then in some places where they think Catholics are unpopular, they've said I was a Catholic. Well, I haven't got a thing in the world against the Catholics. And if I was a Catholic, I'd want you to know that I'd be the very best Catholic that I could. And I'd be right down there on church trying to do the best that I could to help my religion. It just so happens, however, that I'm a Presbyterian, that I was born in the Presbyterian church, baptized as an infant in the Presbyterian church, and been one all my life, and my preacher just happens to be standing right back there now, Sam Bryant, preacher of the First Presbyterian Church in Tuscaloosa. And I think I've been a pretty good Presbyterian. I was a deacon up until just a little while ago, and my term of office ran out, and I hope the preacher there will help me politic a little bit when I get a chance to come on back up and work with him some more. But the thing is this, my friends, do you want people running this state that really will go around spreading that sort of thing about a man? And this is something that's not just been spread in Talladega County, it's been spread all over Alabama. The thing that's happened this spring has been a virtual political revolution in Alabama. You realize that a young man came out of Tuscaloosa about 90 days ago, and not anybody that knew anything about politics, thought he had a chance. They didn't think that I'd get enough votes to count. And my friends, it's the finest thing that ever happened. But because of the fact that they didn't think I had a chance, I'm standing here today, free and unobligated and unfettered, with no obligation to anyone except the people of Alabama. And the reason for it is quite simple. The politicians and the people of great wealth that try to obligate people when they're seeking public office didn't think I had a chance, and they didn't even bother to talk to me about obligating me. And I'll be doggone if they gonna do it now, just because they see I'm gonna win. Because I'm going down there. I'm going down there to do a job for you. My obligation is to you. I'm going to take it to you, the people of Alabama, because this is your fight. It's not my fight, it's a fight for the people of Alabama to have good, strong, decent government in this state. That's been the whole basis of my campaign, and I'm not going to change it one bit, because it took me from nowhere to where I am right now, and I want you to know that I'm just as confident that we're going to win this race as anything that I've ever known in my life. My friends, this is the most important election that the people of Alabama have faced in many